unicorns to larger brands. Everyone today is looking to cash in on the next set of customers, Bharat. Let's take a closer look at what Tier 2 and Tier 3 consumers really want and understand from successful brands the data science behind winning the Bharat consumer. I would like to invite Satrajit Same, Head Product and Community, ETBrandEquity, to moderate the next panel discussion on the topic, Decoding the Bharat Opportunity for Brands. It's my pleasure to invite the esteemed guest, Ajit Varghese, Chief Commercial Officer, ShareChat and Launch, Rajiv Dubey, Head of Media, Dabur India, Megha Agarwal, Head of Growth, Meesho. Welcome everyone. Over to you, Satrajit.
Hi everyone. Welcome to this session on decoding the Bharat opportunity for brands. As you all know, it will be an understatement to say that the concept of Bharat is emerging. For a while now, brands have been trying to decode the needs and aspirations of the new set of consumers and trying to understand the dynamics of a market that is powered by the democratization of technology. This new Bharat has led to a change in the perception of the nation that marketeers once held. The well-informed audience today can utilize the rapid technological changes and developments to their utmost advantages. From unicorns to larger brands, everyone today is looking to cash in on the next set of consumers that lie in the Bharat. In this session today, I'm joined by industry experts who would help us take a closer look at what Tier 2 and Tier 3 consumers really want and understand from the successful brands that what data science goes behind winning the Bharat consumer. It's my great honor to introduce my esteemed panelists today. Welcoming Megha Agarwal, Vice President and General Manager, User Growth at Meesho. Welcome, Megha. Next,
Hi, everyone.
Next, I have Mr. Rajiv Dubey, Head of Media at Dabur India. Welcome, Rajiv.
Hi.
And then I have Mr. Ajit Varghese, Chief Commercial Officer, ShareChat and Launch. Welcome, Ajit. So first of all, I would like to thank my panelists here for joining us today and helping us take a closer look at what the Bharat actually means for brands and businesses. So Ajit, I'll start with you. We're talking about Bharat here, the Bharat market, the market. Right. So let us begin the session with an attempt to understand who this Bharat consumer is and what are his consumption patterns when it comes to digital platforms and what are the kind of content and what are the kind of formats he's typically engaging with. If you can give us a deep dive into that.
So first and foremost, I would love to say that earlier today we actually launched the Bharat Online Report, a joint study that we have done with Group N. To exactly answer the questions that you're looking for, what is this Bharat audience and how is their online behavior? What are the consumption patterns, and how is it kind of different or similar to the audiences that we know who are already online and interacting over the last 1 decade, right? That's something that is already available, will be available today. I would say, how do you define this audience? Let me first put a context of saying, I believe that 90% of Indian audience, identify with their language. And that's something that we have seen over, we know this fact, but the online has created that, divide between what has happened over the last decade versus happened on the last 5 years. If you look at from 2005 to 2015, what we have seen is the audiences which came online or internet connected to the global platforms are predominantly English. We call these audiences roughly around 200 odd million audiences till around 2015. And of that, around 120 odd million was active on social, right? So that's. But with the emergence of 4G in the last 5 years, what we have seen is the connection of India or Bharat that we talk about with diverse population, diverse tastes, diverse interest groups, all connected now to the mainline internet ecosystem. And you would have seen the internet penetration going from almost 200 million to 650 million. The social media penetration has moved from almost 120 million to almost 450 million audiences till 2020. So what has happened over this period is that a new diverse set of audiences have come into being, and who are also identified with their language, not necessarily English, and that has opened up this whole the content behavior, what we used to call as dark web consumption, or trends which we were not able to capture, are not tagged at all, suddenly started becoming mainstream. And to meet those, the new audiences which has come, and it has almost quadrupled in the last 5 years, we are calling that as the Bharat audience. And if you look at that entire ecosystem, it is diverse. It is something that has come up only recently. What we have also seen is what are the emerging consumption patterns. I would put it in actually three buckets. One is this emergence of new form of entertainment. The second is the new form of commerce, or new way of dealing with our daily requirements. Earlier, we only used to have utility on internet. Now everything that is on retail, everything that is available outside, we go outside for, is available online. That's one. And third is the power of influence is moving from a very, very macro influencers, celebrity led influencers, to actually grassroots level influencers. To me, these are the three areas largely: the form of entertainment, the form of commerce, and the form of influence has moved drastically especially in the last 2 years.
Right. Thanks, Ajit. Thanks for giving us a deep dive into understanding what the consumers are looking at. I would connect this question. I mean, your answer to my next question to Rajiv here. Rajiv, as a brand owner, right? So Ajit just mentioned about the democratization of technology with the coming up of 4G and the new tastes that have really emerged as far as the Bharat consumer is concerned, right? So you brand owner here, and when you are going about planning the media spends for your brand, how do you look at the Bharat audience? What are the data sets that you really refer to when it comes to capturing the mindset in that area?
So first of all, the whole country is Bharat actually. This is a part which is India, but most of the country is Bharat, deep rooted, and that's so visible. If you look at the kind of searches which happen on internet right now, if you look at the searches which are happening, they're all driven by voice right now. Right? Searches are voice driven searches. There are the growth which is happening actually in internet nowadays is happening in rural. Rural is growing at a CAGR of almost 28%. Versus say just about 12-13% in urban areas right now. Look at the total number of people who have access to YouTube, the video platform in rural areas, like almost as per YouTube, it's like 222 million right now. The smartphone usage in rural areas is growing at a very, very fast pace, which is basically leading to consumption of video content, then social, and then e-commerce. If you look at, for example, e-commerce has grown by about almost 55% in the country, and mostly driven by rural. So all this is driving towards the growth of the medium, and again social commerce. Social commerce is something which existed in this country forever. And we've given a very fancy name to it now, but it existed in this country, and so this is basically leading to a massive growth in rural tier 2, tier 3 towns, and I would not say urban is saturating. It's still 67% almost, and growing, catching up with the rest of the world, but huge growth opportunities. And that's where one has to market in future. When there's the future of commerce, there's the future of e-commerce, there's the future of social commerce, and that's how brands like us, we are looking at this audience and looking at targeting these people and retargeting these people in this.
I'll connect your answer here to my next question to Megha, because we're talking about the growth of digital commerce as a category. And Megha, I read Meesho's latest report where you are saying that 71% of your growth came from tier 3 cities, right? And in the digital commerce category. So give us an insight into the factors that really fueled this growth, right? And what are the kind of areas and geographies that you really looked at while expanding your services there? And what's the mantra basically to crack that audience?
Maybe I'll just take a 1 minute before I get to the question to really explain what Meesho also does. So Meesho at this point of time is one of the largest internet commerce companies in India. Our mission is to democratize e-commerce for entire Bharat, India, whichever way we want to put it. If I was to talk about goal, it's how do we serve the needs, aspirations of the next 1 billion population of India that is just about coming online. And that's why in that, within the circumference of that mission and vision, we've started penetrating much deeper into non-metro cities. And that's why you see almost 70% of our new users coming from tier 3+. Talking about the framework, I will divide into 3 parts. The first is the product, the core product offering, which means the assortment we have, the price point at which we are providing it, as well as the app through which people buy this product. Second is communications. I think that ties in with a little bit of with what Ajit also mentioned, but I'll double click in a minute. Communications is how do we reach out to this user to get them on our platform? And third is how do we distribute that communications? How do we get to them in the most salient way possible? What are those mediums? What are those faces that take the message to them? So let me just double click into each of the elements. The first is the product, as I mentioned. If you look at the TG that Meesho is serving, it's a fairly price conscious or a value conscious TG. It's a TG that wants to get maximum out of whatever money they are spending. And hence, Meesho has been actually taking a lot of structural initiatives to ensure that we remove all the inefficiencies from the cost or the supply chain that we have and pass that as price benefit to our end user. We've taken multiple initiatives. One of the example is the 0% commission for suppliers. We were pioneers in making that happen for the suppliers. The second is assortment. If you look at Bharat, 80-85% of what we consume is actually still an unorganized sector. Meesho was the first company, first e-commerce company that solely focused on digitizing this supply and getting it online so that we are able to solve for access problem for this entire TG. Third is the app. The app that we've built is very lightweight. It's extremely simple and intuitive to understand so that people who are coming online for the first time, they're actually able to navigate through it, discover products, and actually buy them as well. So that's the product. Second is communications. I think that very much ties in with what Ajit mentioned. This TG, the way you have to communicate is in a way that resonates with them, which means fully vernacular. Right? As he mentioned, 90% of people actually prefer their own language and not so much English. So fully vernacular. Second, highly visual. This TG consumes more visual than just textual way. Third, in a very personalized sort of a manner, which is where the whole AI data science actually starts to kick in. What does personalization mean in communication? One example is if we are talking to a person in Karnataka, we would pick up products which are actually selling in Karnataka and show it to them instead of having very generic creatives, right? So that's the example. Third is the mediums and the faces that we are using to reach out to them. Again, as I think Ajit mentioned this point too, that what is trending now is people need faces which are relatable. And therefore, it's very important that you reach out these communications through influencers, but which are micro and nano in size and not like very large. Similarly, a lot of things Meesho has done to ensure that our content, we are getting deeply integrated into native content. So to summarize, there are 3 things or the 3-step framework to ensure that we have been able to penetrate in Bharat is first is our core product, making it much stronger, which is right assortment at right price through an app, which is super intuitive and easy to understand. Second, 10x in communications, which means relatable communications, vernac, visual, personalized. And last is the mediums that we reach, which is through influencers, through local content, etc. So that's how I would say.
Right, right. Thanks, Megha. I'll come to Ajit here. Ajit, we heard Megha mention about the formats, right? The formats of content that Bharat is consuming, and then obviously, the mediums that they are hooked to more. So, as a platform, right? As a platform that is, that has great reach in the among the Bharat audience. How do you see this debate of video versus text versus native, going, and what's your assessment for brands? What can brands do best in regards to reaching out to the audience effectively?
I think it's absolutely bang on what Megha just said. I mean, surge of video is quite apparent, right? I mean, what you have seen in last 5 years, the text versus video, text has moved from 80% down to almost less than, is in single digit consumption today, whereas video from a 10% has moved to 80% consumption, right? So that's quite apparent. I think what is slightly different is over the, I mean, I would just enlarge the period over last 3 decades. See, video consumption has started in India ever since TV came in. It's just that it was in long format, right? It is 2-hour format, 3-hour formats, 1-hour formats, right? But ever since that has happened, over the last 3 decades, the formats have only grown smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, is it to do with attention span? Is it to do with proliferation of content? Is it to do with more things available? Stuff like that. We can always debate that, right? But over the years, video consumption, what we have seen is that due to lower attention span, it has all come to short video space. Right now, I'm not saying long form doesn't have its space. Long form has its space, but I think what people are frequently doing is going into short video space. So that's one thing that we have seen, and I think that's one advice I give to advertisers or marketers, everybody, is that while long format has its benefits, but there is a whole plethora of short form that you could do to engage with the audience in a very discoverable way, or you what you call is snacking way, and you could tell your story in multiple ways and to engage rather than just one way to engage. So that's probably one thing that we have seen, and our whole ecosystem, whether it is ShareChat or whether it's Moj, is actually tuned into catering this space, especially if you look at the younger age group and the middle age group. This is where the phenomenon we are growing rampantly. The other bit, I think I'll just build on what Megha said, is this whole personalization. And I think what we have been used to is what is trending among popular set of people in the internet audience. We used to think that's what is trending, versus today we know it's all cohorts, right? Different audiences have different race, geographies, location, interest groups. So how are you able to personalize not just with the demographic and other metrics, but based on interest and social graphs? So that's another phenomenon, and that's where AI has come in, right? So I think the ability to personalize as granular as possible and therefore reach out to different sets of people in their interest group. So that's again a huge phenomenon, and it has a lot of impact on creativity, the way we communicate, the number of things that a brand has to do today to engage with multitude of audiences, versus in the old TV era where we put 130-second or one format, and we expect over a 3 to 6 month period it keeps on registering to the audiences, right? Today people don't have that patience, or the fatigue sets in very fast. It's like the dialogue that we have in older era. Movies used to run for 8 months, 6 months, right? Today movies run for 2 weeks or maybe even 1 week, right? Similar the content, the traction of a piece of content is so limited, like it can set, the fatigue can set in very, very, very fast. So our ability to think, engagement with our audience has grown up multitude. The third bit that I see is related to this whole discovery. I think what we have seen over the last 3 years, or maybe especially during the COVID, because COVID came in, and probably we have seen something that could have happened in 5 years and probably happened in 2 years, right? This innate hunger of audiences for new content, and probably it's related to the old point of saying, fatigue sets in faster, and your ability to therefore give them new pieces of content or new ways of influence has grown immensely. I think people just keep moving on, and if it is tried and tested, they want something new. They want constantly new. And I think one of the biggest challenges of algorithms today is to almost predict what is your future consumption pattern? And a lot of global app ecosystem which has emerged over the last 5 years, and including ours, is investing a lot in this space to see what is the future piece of content that a set of group or a cohort would like, and therefore get that engagement going, both at a user level and for a brand level.
Right, right. That's a great, input actually. So when you really speak about the changing patterns in content, so evolution is the only constant I can, imagine, because and that evolution is being, driven by the consumption patterns, especially in those regions. So I'll come to Rajiv here. Rajiv, we have been discussing about this debate of, video versus text versus content formats, long form, short form. As a
Yeah.
brand owner, right? What kind of vehicles out of these vehicles that we have discussed about do you choose as the right fit to reach out to that or audience that you mentioned about in the first phase when you mentioned about the rural audience, the tier 2, tier 3 city audience? Or as a brand owner, what's your take about what are they consuming, and what are the best possible formats they are kind of engaging with?
So the first of all, one like as an advertiser, one tends to go after the eyeballs. That's the first thing. So wherever there is a viewership, wherever there is a traction, wherever there is a chance of meeting our audiences, so that we can target our ads. So that's the first thing. So wherever they are. So what becomes easier for us is that the video content, be it a long format, which used to be like what Ajit said, 2.5 hour movie, back to those days of Doordarshan when you used to wait for one Sunday movie, which used to be once in a week, to today where there's a short format content like Ajit's platform on Moj and Snapchat, etc. So that kind of format, that's something very, very compelling, and you can target audiences. The younger audiences are definitely there, and even older ones are getting there in a while. So video always is a first port of call. If you were to target your advertising, that's easier way of reaching people, because most people are consuming entertainment as a first this thing in the media. So entertainment in a video format, then followed by that is text, and then again the news is again another form of entertainment in this country. So in whichever format news is presented, be it television, be it on news apps, or be it say on the consumption of news happens on say a platform like YouTube and connected TV as well. So those formats. So primarily video, I would say that we target primarily on video rather than other formats, because that's growing much faster. Younger audiences are there, and they're all formats of consumption happens in that.
Correct. And I would resonate with you because I have seen a lot of interesting videos coming out of Dabur's stable of late, and it just resonates. So I'll come to Megha here. Megha, we're talking about the Bharat audience, Bharat consumer here, right? You as a digital commerce platform, the first thing that comes in a brand's mind when they are going to penetrate any market is to decipher the aspiration level and the spending powers of that audience or customer set. You as a digital commerce player, what do you assess about the aspiration levels and the spending power of that segment of audience?
Sure. I think there my POV is that in general, India is a very aspirational country. Irrespective of which income segment we are in, all of us want to move up in life. So I think there is one area where non-metro is actually very, very similar to metro. Plus, with the proliferation of smartphones and penetrations of internet, these aspirations have only been fueled. Opportunities have increased, and therefore disposable incomes, all of those have naturally increased. And therefore, in terms of aspirations and deep pockets, I think it's there. Now, even when you look at from numbers perspective, there are about 600 or 650 million people in India who have an access to smartphone as well as internet connectivity. Barely 10% of that is metro. The rest 90% is non-metro. So to be able to crack this segment is what's going to fuel the growth of digital commerce, to be honest. And that's exactly where I think where Meesho's focus has been, to solve for this 90% as their primary objective and not so much for a metro user per se.
Correct. Ajit, when you decide about, I mean, we speak about content formats and engagement formats in that area. What's your real assessment about the Bharat audience when it comes to spending power as well as aspiration levels?
If you, I mean, I think Megha touched upon a beautiful point about the aspiration, and all developing economies like rag to riches story, right? And that's a constant phenomenon in all developing economies. I'll add maybe one or two other points that probably will put the context to this. I think if you look at India's growth in the last 10 or 15 or 20 years that you have seen, it's mostly driven by the top 150 million people, right? People with dispensable income power, right? And disproportionate income power, right? And India's growth story has been pretty much in the last 2 decades. But if any of us in this room or outside believes that there is a next phase of India's growth in the next decade or 2 decades, has to come from the rest 90%. Right. The Bharat, or the what we call as language audiences, is one which is going to power India's growth. Right now, 2 things actually hindered them in terms of, one is access and the other is finance. I think both of these are getting solved as we speak. Right. One is the accessibility infrastructure. That's no longer a hindrance today. I mean, and that, like we said about it, whether it's about 4G, tomorrow 5G will come in, or smartphones, finance available easily, finance able to do finance on a fingertip. So those two things getting as and when we get solved, this becomes an easy solve for the rest 90% of India. So that's our real growth story, because it's not as if they didn't have the money, but they just didn't have the or they didn't like content. It's just that we didn't discover that potential, or it was probably hidden, or it was probably access was a problem. I think to me that those 3 things getting solved makes this audience emerge, access, make sure that they can express in the language that they prefer, and gives us the ability to connect in a form that they would like to be connected with, rather than what we think how we can connect with them. So that's a big distinction. And I think in the entire ecosystem, whether you look at all forms of media, if you look at Bollywood, you look at celebrity space, you look at sports, the big Indian passions, I think some of those things will continue, right? We all need a hero, we all need a big lookout for. But I think what is the other big thing that is coming out, I think Megha briefly touched upon, is the power of influence. The power of influence moving into micro influencers, nano influencers, going to regional influencers, people whom we can relate to. And we see that traction currently, right? There are brand advertising, then we sometimes do creator-led advertising, which are normal creators creating an ad, and we almost see 2 to 3 times clicks moving up, because it's a creator ad, not a brand ad, no, celebrity ad and stuff like that. Now, this could be early numbers. I don't want to form a trend here, but we can see huge traction when we do influencer marketing. And some of the brands which have come in early to ShareChat and Moj are already adapting to these formats. We are seeing huge traction when we do a hashtag challenge to engage with brands, and people creating videos on their own and engaging organically with the brand. So there is a huge new ways of working with the audiences to engage with them in a form that they like. And I would say this is still emerging. For example, in China, video commerce is huge, right? I mean, over the last decade, now we are saying in some places almost 10 to 20% of GMV of e-commerce companies is actually coming through video commerce, right? And that's something that we are starting today. It's in the beta phase today, but using influencers to start propagating brands usage, and how do you create a funnel from there on to get into a marketplace and fulfill that journey. And that's something that we are going to bet hugely in the next 2-3 years, because we believe that this can definitely play a big role in opening up the commerce for Bharat.
Right. This brings me to Rajiv as we come to an end towards the end of this discussion. So Rajiv, I really want to understand from you. So Ajit just mentioned about what the future is going to be when it comes to the Bharat audience, and the growth of the evolution of content that they're really looking at. So
Yeah.
as a media owner, right? Or sorry, you as a brand owner, what do you see the evolution going in terms of media consumption when it comes to the Bharat audience?
So, Ajit talked about influencers, and so did Megha. So I just wanted to touch upon that point first. So one is that the way influencers are getting used nowadays. I mean, companies like ours, so brands like ours, which used to probably have only one commercial for a brand, once upon a time, which used to be dubbed in different languages, is to run across the country. Now that has changed. Now what happens is that so one is that local influencers, nano influencers are taking part in, and even the at a local level, say, or a state level, the big influencers, and so influencers becoming a very, very big thing in our ecosystem as well, which is basically letting people have a better attachment with the brand. I mean, they talk in their language, and they talk in their lingo, etc. So that's something becoming very, very strong, and in the long run, that's what is helping us grow, and is basically fueling growth. Brands like, I'll give you an example of brand like Honey, Dabur Honey. For example, Dabur Honey is a brand which is basically which is sold all over the country. We have, imagine for a brand like Dabur Honey, we have films in virtually all languages. Like in Telugu, you'll have a different superstar working for the brand. You have in Tamil, we have different one. In Bengali, we have different one. In the heartland, you have several of them, and plus on top of that, various influencers and nano influencers and city level influencers. So that's something giving us opportunity to explore new markets and trying to drive growth over there. One is that. Second is that there's to be a huge void in markets like UP and Bihar, and despite the proliferation of TV all across the country, these markets somehow just stagnated at a certain level of 50%. Bihar is still like about 23% TV penetration. But look at what internet and what geo and what growth of internet has done in these markets. A larger population have access to internet rather than having internet access to TV right now. So these are the growth opportunities for us. I mean, these are the growth opportunities for us, where if you can reach your products to them and you can sell it to them directly, direct to customer kind of approach, that's something is going to help us in a big way. So these markets, I mean, like in our system, there's something called as ABC of Dabur, which is basically Ara, Balia, Chhapra of India, which is tier 2, tier 3 towns is how it is referred to. But if you look at this ABC, so that basically defines whole the future of business for companies like ours, and where people, the new people will come from, new audiences will come from. A bit about the distribution of our company is, if you look at the distribution of a brand like Dabur, is in almost 66 lakh outlets in the country, which is second only to levers, and much more. I mean, we are say in this UP, Bihar, MP, Rajasthan kind of markets, we are like leaders in most of these markets. So a ground level distribution, along with influencer led marketing, and along with say targeting on say the areas which were so-called media dark areas. A combination of these factors which is going to fuel the growth for companies like ours, and even the new commerce companies as well.
Correct. I think you mentioned it correctly. That segment and is going to be the growth area for all businesses, and indeed that would be. And we are already seeing a lot of interest from businesses across segments and across categories, looking to penetrate to the region that we really call Bharat. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are really running out of time today. I wish we had some more time and to discuss about and understand more deeply what brands really need to crack, in this market. But so far, it has been a great round of discussions. We have learned a lot of understanding the Bharat audience and what they're consuming currently, and what the future looks like and the evolution looks like for brands. On behalf of ET Brand Equity, I really want to thank all my panelists here, Megha, Ajit, and Rajiv. Thank you so much for joining us today and helping us and our audiences, take them, through the journey of brands and Bharat. Until next time, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for putting your point of view. Truly very valid points made with detailed explanation. Now we'll proceed to the next chat session. Meanwhile, a reminder to explore the Expo area for interesting videos and presentations.